Most business videos fail. Now, don't get me wrong, what I mean by this is that whatever your definition is for success and failure, I'm sure what you're seeing on your dashboard and as far as conversion rates or just overall engagement isn't what you were hoping it would be, right? And I think the reason why is because the content you're putting out there is forgettable. Now, think about it this way, right? If you watch the business video and you can't remember anything that was said in it, or if it didn't make an impression, then I think you're starting to see what the problem is. And I think most videos just blend into the noise because they don't do the things that make the content stick. And if your audience isn't connecting to the message and to what you're trying to relay, right, and have them be emotionally engaged with you and your business and the products or services, then the effort you're putting into it does feel like, yeah, this is not a successful effort. We're not doing what we need it to do, right? And I think it's important to see it this way, right? You're wasting your time and the audience's time. And if you keep that in mind, I think moving forward, you'll start to reconsider and maybe take a little bit more effort as far as scripting and what message you're trying to put out there and be a little bit more focused, right? So I think what we want to discuss today is a little bit more about why most of the business videos that we see are not hitting the mark. And I think the most important part of this video is going to be, how do we fix that, right? How do we fix your content and your video marketing efforts? And I think it's important to realize or understand that a good video should have or should do one of these three things, right? Make people stop and pay attention, get them to feel something, an emotion or what have you, and then get them to take action based off of that emotion. The call to action, if you will. If your videos aren't doing one of those, they're just digital clutter, and that's usually because of one or more of these three mistakes. So these are the three mistakes that may be leading to the lack of emotional connection, lack of next steps that a potential customer may be willing to do otherwise. So this is mistake number one, and I think this one is quite relatable. It's if you're talking at people and not to them, then there's a sense of, I don't know, I guess defensiveness or what have you. Like, for example, right, I went to university and I would sit in a lecture hall and it didn't feel as though I was part of the conversation. And I think the key here as far as talking to people is you want it to feel like you're having a conversation with them as though you were having a conversation with a friend or a loved one or a colleague, right? There's some sort of maybe perhaps personal connection there, relatability, and that helps the audience and the potential customers connect with whatever it is that you're trying to relay, because you're having a conversation with them. You're kind of bringing them along, you're telling them a story, you're being funny, or there's some sort of emotion that you're portraying within the video, and that will help them understand, okay, well, this is a real person and I can get behind whatever product or services it is. And the product and services that you're providing is the cherry on top, because if you do that well, then there you go. You got the 1-2 hit combo, and that's the ideal situation. And so here's the truth within all of that. Your audience doesn't necessarily care about your business. The audience cares about what you can do for them. And I think we can all agree with that, right? And maybe you didn't think about it that way, or haven't yet come across that idea or concept in your own mind. And hopefully this is a shift in your own mindset as far as, well, how are we problem solving? How are we alleviating the pain points that our customers are facing? And you as a business owner individual also feel that way as well, right? You're purchasing certain products or CRMs or what have you, and the reason that you're doing that is to alleviate a pain point, right? And I think the way we fix that is just think about the viewer. Think about what's best for them, essentially. And I think when you go from that perspective, then whatever it is that you're whatever it is you're trying to convey will come across more authentically and come across in a way that's more genuine, if you will. Now, onto mistake number two is an important one to understand and recognize, is overloading the video with too much information. I think for me, I talk a lot and I can always give too much information. My wife can attest to that. And sometimes as business owners, we want to get out as much information as we can in one video, right? Behind the scenes, a new product, sales, X, Y, and Z. Maybe you have some multiple verticals within the business and you're trying to get all that in there. You definitely don't want to do that because one, that's too much information for the audience and potential customer because they're not going to know which direction to go in. If you give too many options, people have analysis paralysis, if you will, right? You go to the store, ice cream store, you go and you see 20 flavors. You're gonna have a hard time picking those, whatever flavor that you're looking to consume that day. But if there was 4 flavors, that's a lot better as far as, okay, well, I know I don't like these 2, so I'm 50-50 on these 2 flavors. So that gives you a more concrete, or the audience a more concrete next steps, if you will. So that's the most important part, I think, is giving too much information and they don't know what to do with any of it, or they don't remember much. And then 2 is the multiplicity. I know it's a big word in this video, but there's too many options and people usually, most of the time, won't make a decision. They won't choose something because it's just too much and they'll just move on. And if your video is saying too much, then your audience is going to get lost in that message, and you don't want that. And the whole point of this is the call to action, the conversion rates, the engagement, and if you're giving too much information, then it's just all over the place. So the solution here, the fix, is to focus on one core message, right? Testimonials, sales, behind the scenes. And the best part about this is, and this is kind of like part C, if you will, is that you're giving yourself the ability to have multiple videos that you can put out there. If you're putting everything and cramming all these videos into one, well, then you're losing out on, maybe 100 more videos that you could be doing. I know that's an exaggeration, but that's basically the idea, right? Instead of doing 5 or 10, you can do 15, 70 videos, right? So here's a few questions that you can ask yourself. What's the one thing that I want the viewer to walk away with, right? If they only remember one idea, what should it be? And also, am I adding extra details that aren't necessary? Keep those questions in mind as you go and you hit the record button and you're trying to convey a specific message with the audience. Now on to mistake number 3, no emotional connection. I alluded to this earlier as far as, is there an emotional connection to you, to the message, and to the product and services? Is it solving a pain point? Does it speak directly to the audience? And is it coming off as genuine and authentic, right? And I think maybe you don't see it this way, or maybe have not come to this realization either, is that people aren't buying the products, they're buying feelings, and they're buying off of emotions. Or perhaps, if I'm sure there's a book on this that I haven't read, as far as like consumerism, is a lot of it's emotional, right? We make emotional decisions. So I think that's an important distinction to make, is they're not necessarily buying the hand soap or the shampoo, they're buying what it's going to do for them and how they're going to feel after shampooing their hair or using a specific hand lotion, right? That's the emotional aspect of buying. And it sounds a little counterintuitive, but once you come to that realization, I think that will help alleviate a lot of your concerns as far as like, is it me or is it the products? No, it's what story are you telling them that they're going to connect with, and what issues or pain points are they having that you're solving, and that product or service is going to help alleviate for them, right? So the fix or the solution here is that you want to make people feel something, a connection, whether it's joy, relief, anger, resentment. I mean, I know you don't want anger or resentment, but some sort of emotion, right? I think when we come into the conversation around content and what people's opinions are, a lot of times that can rile people up, and then there's some comments and engagement. And you'll see people say like, well, even if they disagree, that's still good because it's boosting engagement, it's creating conversation, and it's bringing more eyes to the person or whatever it is that they're trying to do. So whether good or bad, it's still going to bring attention to what you're trying to say. So as far as like emotional drive to the video is going to be telling a story. right? Given a specific example of a previous client, that's where client testimonials come into play. You want to be able to relay that story and show how your product or service provided a solution to that client-specific problem, because that's going to help resonate, or that's going to resonate with the client or potential client or customer, as far as they're having that same issue. Well, if their product or service can provide that solution, then let me go and try that out, right? So then that can really provide another angle of this relatability, genuine, and authenticity. And then I mentioned, right, like show the struggles that perhaps even you're dealing with, and some of the solutions that you're finding that in your own products or services, right? Sometimes people do that. Like, for example, here locally, there's a spa, sauna, infrared, all those different things that provide health benefits. And I'm sure the business owner, participates in that, right? The deprivation tank, right? The sensory deprivation, can't say that word, sensory deprivation tank. And there's a lot of health benefits to that business owner as well. And that story can be told from the business owner's perspective and say, hey, you know what? I had some issues, anxiety, or what have you. And after doing sensory deprivation tanks and infrared and sauna, like, man, I feel so much better. You can start to see, okay, well, I feel anxious, or I've got some pain or some aches, and I'm looking for to be alleviated of these pains, right? And then it's important to remember that in telling that story, right, and whatever that looks like, in specifics, there's a mood that you can provide, and music and visuals can enhance that message that you're providing, that story that you're telling. So a lot of times you'll hear certain music, whether it's more excitement or chill, laid back, right? Whatever emotion you're trying to convey, music is going to do a good job of that. And then as far as like kind of wrapping this up, or kind of tying a bow and help you understand, okay, we went through a lot of information here. So let me just go through these quick points, right? Number one is talk like a human. You don't want to be robotic. Even if you're writing a script, write it in the manner in which you communicate, right? You want it to be true to your own voice, right? What is it? Be true to yourself, if you will. And then number two, you want to keep it focused. Don't get off topic. Don't add too much information. One message, one video, just straight to the point. Don't get off course. And number three is you want to create an emotional hook. That's what's going to bring people in, and then that's where you get into the storytelling, or the behind the scenes, or the customer testimonial. A lot of times you can do that emotional hook with a surprising fact, or a strong visual, or some sort of relatable pain point, right? That pain point I mentioned earlier, as far as like aches and pains, and then here's a sauna, sensory deprivation tank, right? So you start with the pain point and you go into the storytelling. And then number four is you always want to end with a call to action, a CTA. What's the next step? Is it to go to their website? Is it to click the link? Is it to give them a call, book a massage, or what have you? You want them to know, okay, well, here's what the product or service is providing, and this is how you can get in touch with us, or this is how you can take the next step to go into that company to get that service or product, or whatever that looks like for that video specifically. So whatever that looks like, you got to make it clear, and you can't assume that the person viewing your video is going to know what to do. So you want to provide easy next steps, whether it's in the comments or if there's a link in your bio, whatever that looks like, right? So make sure that's clear. Just like everything before, everything's got to be clear, concise, to the point, but genuine and authentic and true to your voice. And as far as what my final thoughts are on this, and I hope it's been clear and concise as much as I can manage, is that you want to focus on clarity, emotion, and engagement. Your videos will stand out if you can do those three things, along with telling the story, the music, the visuals, and all those good things. But I think more importantly, it's actually going to work for you. You're not going to feel like, man, I'm putting out this content and it's just not doing well. You're going to feel some sense of relief because you're putting in time and effort, right? That's important to remember. You've got a million things that you got to do. You're putting in time and effort to put out these videos and get an audience and build a community and hopefully convert to clients or customers, right? That's the whole goal of video marketing, is that you want these conversions to be there. So I'll leave you with that. If there's anything as far as mistakes that you feel I've missed, or maybe you've made one of these mistakes, go ahead and drop that down in the comments below. If you're interested in working with me, you can find me over at Instagram at Filming Saucer. And with that, thank you for sticking with me to the end. Appreciate you all stopping by, and I'll see you all in the next one. All right, bye-bye.